welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to talk about two John Frankenheimer films from the 60s. This is from his peak period. So I have The Manchurian Candidate and The Train. Now, Frankenheimer was an interesting director. I talked about it a few weeks ago with French Connection 2, which was from his later period where he wasn't quite as good. He was a director who came from television and was very successful in setting up television live productions and how to do it properly. He didn't set it up, but he was the one who figured it out, and everyone thought he was the best of those directors. And he came into films, and he had his problems. I mean, it was the same generation of Arthur Penn and Sidney Lumet, and he was the one who probably was the most commercial of them. He could do thrillers really well, but he definitely wanted to expand out of thrillers and do other things. And sometimes they were less successful than the thrillers, is the big thing. Is he became taped as an action director. And he got other opportunities, but they were never the films that kind of jumped out at people. And he's a director who was reliant on writers. And sometimes the scripts are better written than others, is the big thing. Is like, give him a good script and he'll deliver. But give him a kind of weaker script and it's not going to work out so well. You know, and give him a horror movie, it's going to be a disaster because he just didn't get horror. Not direct horror. Not supernatural horror or monsters and things. He just couldn't do that. So, the first one I'm talking about, Manchurian Candidate, was based on a Richard Condon novel that Frank Sinatra bought the rights to and brought in Frankenheimer. I think this was just after Birdman of Alcatraz. So Frankenheimer had done one or two films about Lancaster. They had not got on to start with, but they managed to sort that out and had a good relationship for other films, which we'll get to The Train. So with Birdman of Alcatraz, it was a big success, and Manchurian Candidate was also a success. Not as big as Birdman of Alcatraz, like critically. But this one grew over time because it was less in circulation for a while just because of rights issues. But it was always one of those films that when I was young, it was like, I need to try and find Manchurian Candidate. How do I see this film? I'd read the book, but I really wanted to see the film because the film was like meant to be excellent. So it took me a while to see it, but eventually it got released in VHS and eventually you could see it. And it's been re-released in DVD, then Blu-ray, and I think it's now come to 4K. I think Kino Lorber's doing it. I'm not sure it's Kino Lorber or not who's doing it, but it's getting released in 4K. And it's a great film. It really is. It's wonderful. It's a film I try not to watch all the time now because I saw it a lot when I was younger, probably my 20s, and now it's like I know it too well, so I just try and space it out because it's one of those films that can be addictive. So it's set in the 1950s during the Cold War Red Scare, and the idea of it is like just like MAGA now, the paranoia that these really scares cause, the kind of insanity of some of the members who are into promoting these scares as something important for the world, makes it easy to hide other things on in the background, and a lot of corruption, a lot of plotting, a lot of things that could help the people you're meant to actually be fighting against. So it's much more about the complexity of politics, especially when you have like a simplistic message applied on top of it. And amidst that, you've also got stuff like brainwashing, the tragedy of a guy who's been brainwashed into doing something he did not want to do. So this film has two characters. You have Marco, played by Frank Sinatra, who was this sergeant in this troop that was captured. Although in their minds they just get lost for 2 days and end up surviving. And are led out by Lawrence Harvey's character, who is this cold guy who was a lieutenant. He was cold. He was isolated from people. You know, no one liked him. But everyone says he was the bravest guy they ever saw. And he's called Raymond Shaw. And basically, when they come back, Sinatra's having nightmares and he's feeling something's up. and other people in the students having nightmares, and they're throwing something up, and then you're getting flashbacks to them in what feels like is in a room that switches from what they're seeing, which is they think they're in a room full of women talking about flowers, and then the camera moves around, you see it's actually a bunch of communists talking about how they're brainwashing these guys for their own good to do their nefarious plans. And so it's like, oh yeah, it's a Red Scare movie, but it's much clever than that. And so as the flashbacks continue into these dreams continue, and you get a sense that there's something wrong here. Marco is sent to investigate Shaw, and slowly but surely start to get a sense there's something wrong with him as well. And when someone asks me to play a game of solitaire, it triggers some programming in him, and it turns out he's a plant to do things for the inside people within the American government who are communists. And you've got all that paranoia, but the most important thing about this is it's a satire. It's really a satire. I mean, Richard Condon, who wrote it, did Preachers on, did Winter Kills. He does satires. He does them about the insanity of a situation, not just a straight-faced look at it. And to him, it's like, the point is like, this insanity, this Red Scare insanity, this paranoia, yeah, we have people who have a different point of view from us, and we should be careful of them. But rounding up the paranoia and making anyone who might be slightly on the left to be the villains is insane. And it turns out that the people behind all that are actually communists' spies in the first place, and they're planning to use Raymond to kill. They're planning to use the Red Scare to get into the vice president slot and then kill the president, so that he can take over the country as a president. Remind you a lot of Donald Trump and allegations about him in Russia. Yeah, this film is way ahead of its time. But the thing is, at this time, is like, this is plausible because of the Red Scare. Like, things just keep repeating. And that whole idea is your enemy could be your friend quietly. Your supposed enemy might be your friend, and the people who are fighting against the enemy in a sane way are viewed as the enemy of the people who are actually in the pocket of the communists. so the communist traitors are planning to are fighting against the actual Americans who are trying to keep everything sane. Well, they're trying to make everything insane. And it's just a great parody of the craziness of the world. But also, the even crazier thing is, the person in charge is the mother of Raymond Shaw. The person who's a communist spy is Raymond Shaw's mother, who's actually just an authoritarian. She doesn't care about communism. She just wants to be in power. And her doofus husband is just a mouthpiece for her. He's got charm, but he does what he's told. And there's a kind of weird incestuous feeling between her, played by Angela Lansbury, and Raymond Shaw. So there's something weird going on there from her side. And she always wants to keep him in charge, even though he hates her. And he falls for the daughter of one of the guys who are writing awful things about Angela Lansbury's husband, who's the big stooge saying, we must tear out all these communists. And he's the father of the woman Shaw's in love with. There's a guy saying, no, this is nonsense, this is stupid. We cannot fall for this garbage. So there's all sorts of layers of people who are, you know, viewed as enemy of the state but are not, and people who are viewed as friend of the state but are not, and just all the craziness. But also the personal tragedy of Raymond Shaw, who's this guy who's trapped with a family that destroyed him from his mother, destroyed his chances of happiness, and how the whole mechanism of this plot comes out to make his life worse and worse, and make him more and more tortured. And you've got Frank Sinatra playing a guy who's trying to figure it out. Well, he's having like mental breakdowns as well because he can't face the true realities are destroying him too. And he feels, even though he knows when he knows what's going on, he still feels like it's crushing him. And there was a Janet Leigh playing the girlfriend of Frank Sinatra, and she has some nice seduction scenes with him and is very helpful and has a lot of fun scenes with him. That's the thing about this film is there's so many fun scenes. There's so much enjoyable scenes in it. And as you can probably tell from what my description of the plot, there's a lot going on. There's so much going on. And it's really complicated. But there's humour throughout it. All the scenes that are exposition always have humour to them. There's also got a lot of human nature throughout, so you get the plotting amidst character interaction, so it makes it much more fun. And it's just so well written, and the whole thing's so well put together. The Frankenheimer can do lots of stuff with the actors, and you bring in actors he likes and let them go, and also can do some interesting stuff with the cameras to create a sense of a world that's been manipulated quietly, so it's taking the camera setups you'd be used to that time, and then quietly, subtly suggesting they're up to no good in a way that anticipates what De Palma would be doing in the 70s. This sense of everything's a lie. The whole thing's a lie. You're being manipulated. There's layers and layers of manipulation as onion, and not even the people involved know who's manipulating who and why, and everyone's manipulating each other. And you're not even sure if Lansbury's a communist. Ultimately, she might be using the communists to get to any power and then absolutely destroy them. That's what she said she's going to do. So she's like using them as well. And it's like, it's just layers and layers of power grabs and people lying to get what they want and people just straight out saying this is the truth when it's really not. So this is wonderful. And the performances are great, especially Lawrence Harvey as Raymond Shaw. He is really putting the work in with this one because he's playing a guy who's naturally unlikable, but there is a tenderness to him below the surface that cracks through sometimes. And it's this sense of, is a guy tortured by his own personality, his own brain? He doesn't want to be the way he is, but he's stuck with the way he is, the way he's been brought up, and the way he's been programmed, and the way he's been manipulated throughout his life. So he can only do so much to rebel against it. So it is a tragic performance, but it's also just a really funny film, very dark, and just wonderful throughout. I still think it's probably Frankenheimer's best film. He made other films, really good films, but I think this one's still the best one. Other times I think he never had the satire behind him the way this film has. This film has satire, and I think in some other films it's more straight-faced. Because I think Frankenheimer was a lefty who was very serious with his politics. And I think sometimes in the films it was a bit too one note compared to this one. So now we go on to The Train. The Train was a difficult production. Originally it was Arthur Penn directing, another graduate of the kind of television directors. It was directed by Burt Lancaster, and Burt Lancaster viewed what he was doing was an art house film about them trying to protect his art that's getting transferred from the Nazis from Paris to Berlin. And Paul Scofield plays a guy who's trying to get it out because he thinks Germany should have this, not France. So it's all the great art within France getting moved to Germany. That's the plot. Didn't actually happen. They had to do things to keep the art, but not this. But it doesn't matter because it's a great thriller idea. And when Lancaster came on board after filming another film, he did not like what Penn was doing because he thought it was a thriller idea. He was like, I do art house films, like Visconti stuff. Then I do thrillers because I need to actually have an audience. And this is one of the commercial ones we're doing. We're not doing art house stuff for this one. So him and Penn clashed, and Penn was fired pretty quickly. And he brought on John Frankenheimer. Now, Frankenheimer and him had a difficult relationship in the first film, but they made up and did Birdman of Alcatraz, which solved a lot of problems. So when Lancaster was in trouble, he asked Frankenheimer to come on board. Frankenheimer came on board, get paid a lot of money to do it. and change the script to be a suspense machine. Basically, this is about the resistance trying to stop this train. And the really cool thing about it is the people involved in resistance don't care about the art. They don't. They're involved in destroying the train lines, destroying, limiting stuff. So, because D-Day has happened, American allies are moving forward. They will get to Paris pretty quickly. Germany's trying to get stuff out before the allies arrive. And the resistance thinking, we're almost through this war. We should just stop them from getting out as best we can, but then wait for the allies to turn up. Because they've lost so many people at this point. Is that they're based in the last legs. But now the guy's saying, there's a woman coming in who helped bring that together, saying, no, this is important to France for after the war. That we've still got this, so it does disappear. It's stuff that is worth a lot of money, but that's not the point. The point is the pride, and the Germans are trying to take pride away. So, Lancaster is kind of half-hearted, but he says he'll try and help with how he can, but he's doing other stuff, and he's trying to deal with blowing up this super train that will help protect the Nazis. So that's his priority. So the first third of it is Lancaster's like, I don't give a shit about this stuff. I'll do what I can. And a guy who brought him up actually helps them, like, slow the train down by causing a problem with the train. So it has to go back. So the train leaves and it has to get pulled back in and needs to get to a station, and then they have to try and repair it. And they realise that it's been sabotaged, and this guy's killed. And because this guy always brought Lancaster up, now Lancaster's like, okay, this is personal now. You actually killed my friend. And he's starting to see a lot of resistance now, starting to feel like we should save this art. This is important to us. This is a metaphor for what we've done in the last 4 or 5 years with these Nazis. So they start to slowly build up what they need to do. And Lancaster gets pulled into it because Paul Schofield sees that he's a really good engineer and he can rebuild things, and he rebuilds the engine within like a night because on the threat of his life, basically. And to get these parts created to run the train to get it working. When he sees how good Lancaster is, he says, you have to move this train to Berlin, you have to be on the thing. So Lancaster's trapped. Lancaster was just going to go and tell the rest of the resistance what they were doing. So he's now trapped in the train. So now he's like, I'm definitely going to stop this bloody train. Even though I still don't give a shit about the art, I'm going to stop the train. And the resistance does lots of things. And you build up all these characters throughout. John Moreau runs a tale. She's just trying to survive. But despite her cynicism, she does try and help Lancaster out. You've got a guy who runs the one of the stations who's helping the resistance. You've got a young kid who's helping him as well. And they're doing lots of stuff to mess with the Germans so the train switches track and they don't realise the train's actually going back to where it started. So that'll waste the entire day of them trying to escape, which leads to people getting massacred. There's also they cause like train crashes to block the lines after trying to get the train crashes out. And, you know, they do everything, and Lancaster gets more and more obsessed with stopping this bloody train. And you get to see more and more of the resistance, and you also see a lot of people who started the film die to stop this train from getting out of France. And it just becomes a suspense machine of, like, you're involved with all the characters, you want to see them stop the train, but you see the cost of it. It's just like horrific, just non-stop people dying. And but in unexpected ways, people die for things that are just bad luck, you know. Also timed, it's like they go and do stuff so that they know basically the chances of them surviving are not good. So people die that way as well. So there's a lot. I mean, I'm not going to explain all the suspense sequences, but there are plentiful suspense sequences, and they're all terrifically done. But what's great is it slowly strips it down to essentially it's basically Lancaster versus Schofield by the end of it, and like, you know, Lancaster just will not give up. He will do everything because he's a train engineer. He knows the trains, he knows the lines, he knows everything about trains. He keeps finding ways to screw them up because he knows the job. And it's like the joy of watching a professional who's also very determined. He will run all night if he needs to stop this train. He's really going to keep it going. So it's just great how the film goes, how the film progresses. And unlike Manchurian Candidate, try to explain this plot's fairly simple. Manchurian Candidate, when I explained that plot, I was like, I know the plot, but I'm getting lost by my explanation because it's so complicated. This one is very simple. They stop the train and things happen. And it's a long film, but doesn't feel it. So you guys see this film. It's really good. It's a very underrated film. I think it's also going in 4K soon. I think if Lobber's doing it. But I'm kind of waiting to see if we get it over here, as well in the UK as well. But if not, I'll probably get the Lobber one. Because I wouldn't mind a good 4K of this one. Because it's black and white, and the blacks and whites are really gorgeously shot. So I'll probably, unless we don't see any signs of an import, I'll probably end up caving. Right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Right, bye for now.